Okay, maybe April Fool's Day one day later, the Democrats got a much coveted win at the Wisconsin Supreme Court last night. And oh my gosh, the humanity. They're burning down Subaru dealers. Oh no, people are scrawling messages all over Priuses, all over America. Holy cow, the humanity. They're breaking windows at a Ben & Jerry's. Oh no, wait a minute. That's right. That's not how we react when an election doesn't go our way. That's how they react. Not to worry, nobody's going to take to the streets and commit acts of violence because the activist judge on the left, Susan Crawford, beat Brad Schimmel last night. It's too bad. Too bad Wisconsin voters didn't show up. Once again, what we call the low propensity voter. If Trump's on the ticket, we're all in. We'll make it happen. Trump's not there. People stay home. Charlie Kirk had the perfect perspective. Look, we're the party of plumbers and welders, waitresses. We work. For Democrats, politics is their religion. It's all they got. That and judges. And they have identified the way to try to stop everything that Republicans are trying to do right now. And that is tie as much up as you can in the courts and find enough activist judges who have been installed by billionaire leftist activists and try to run the country that way. What else are you going to do when you got a popularity rating of 21%? That's the approval rating right now for the Democrats. Last poll I saw, 21%. Their ideas are not popular. Their policies are being rejected by the electorate. So if you lose the people, what do? Well, you go around them and try to find the Susan Crawfords of the world who will run the show. Get a judge here, get a Wisconsin Supreme Court that can gerrymander, deliver a couple of extra Democrat congressional seats. Find a federal judge in D.C. who can stop the mass deportation of illegals. A mass deportation that, incidentally, is enormously popular with the majority of Americans. Americans have had it with illegal immigration. The Democrats want to keep it going. Spartacus yesterday was on the Senate floor for 25 hours, railing against deporting gang members. It's unbelievable. And the takeaway from that was that, I don't know, I mean, I honest to goodness don't know what that accomplished. I saw Frank Luntz claim that it was just epic, one of the most significant events in modern political history. I am completely mystified at this takeaway. Leland Vittert on News Nation had Frank Luntz on last night. And here's what the famed pollster said about Cory Booker's stunt. He wanted to set the record and go 25 hours ranting and raving about the evil Republicans. Frank Luntz thought it was one of the most spectacular things he ever saw.
But are they energized in running in a circle and fighting with each other, or are they energized in a direction?
They're going crazy right now. And they're going crazy because they don't see leadership in their own party. And I want to emphasize what Cory Booker did over the last 24 hours may have changed the course of political history. I watched a lot of it. I listened to words. I listened to phrases, how he presents himself. Did he criticize Donald Trump? Of course he did. But he struck the kind of tone that grassroots Democrats are looking for. He gave them a reason to fight. He gave them a reason to stand up and say, this is my country, too. Of course, every Republican watching will say, this is nonsense. But he's not speaking just to Republicans. He's speaking to Americans. And what I saw over the last 25 hours absolutely blew me away. And just as you sometimes make projections or predictions, I'm going to do one right here. That speech puts Cory Booker as one of the leaders for the Democratic Party. Wow. 2028, and I'll go even further. If you ask Democratic senators right now who they'd rather have lead them over the next 3 years, they would choose Cory Booker over Chuck Schumer.
I got nothing there. I've got absolutely. So I guess Frank watched most of the 25 hours and came away convinced it will change the course of political history. And most normal people are saying, what was that all about? What in the world was that? What was that? What was the point? To just break the record? Talk a lot without going to the bathroom? That's all I could think of. How can you go 24 hours, 25 hours without going to the bathroom? And, make no mistake, there was a mixed bag last night. I mean, across the board, there were really four major things that voters had to decide on, four major initiatives, two races in Florida. We won them both. The voter ID law passed in Wisconsin, but Susan Crawford beat Brad Schimmel. The best essay I read, the best analysis of the night came from our friend and colleague, Charlie Kirk. And Charlie wrote something that every word of it just rang true about falling short in Wisconsin. Charlie wrote, we got to realize and appreciate that we are the low propensity party now. We got Trump on the ticket, we get excited, we go, we crawl over broken glass. If Trump's not on the ticket, I got a job to do. Special elections and these off-cycle elections continue to be a problem for us unless we change strategy. Charlie writes, we are the party of welders, waiters, and plumbers. We're the party of people who work with their hands, who shower before and after work. Politics is an afterthought for many of our supporters. They have common sense and American values, but they are the voters who must be chased. Charlie uses this phrase all the time: chase the vote, chase the ballot, chase the vote. Democrats have become the college-indoctrinated, institutionalized, and government-dependent high-propensity party. They live for politics. It's their religion. You may hate Trump, but he resurrected a dead GOP back to life. Voters who weren't on anyone's data rolls came out of the woodwork to vote for Donald Trump. Our movement must begin to fully fund the infrastructure to match the Democrat machine. Our ideas are better. They're actually popular. But we need to match like for like, Charlie says. We got to out-organize the Democrats. We need to match their fundraising advantage. Let Wisconsin be a wake-up call. Let it be a call to return to the front lines. We won in November, but to save the republic, we must string together multiple victories, and that starts in 2026. He's right. He's right. We're not going to riot. We're not going to burn down things. We're not going to commit violence. We're going to continue to fight hard. And in Wisconsin, the Republicans got out-hustled, got outspent. I saw it was a 2-to-1 margin. The billionaire activists poured tons of money into Susan Crawford's campaign. And a lot of people bought it. I want to play the little old lady who was a Trump voter who voted for Susan Crawford. Because you have to ask yourself, why in the world would somebody who supported Donald Trump vote against Brad Schimmel? Well, CNN caught up with one such voter, an older lady, a senior, white lady, and she explained her reasoning.
But I also want to bring you to a voter because I've been speaking to Carol here who's from Elm Grove. And what was interesting, Carol, is you told me you voted for Trump in November.
Yes.
But then you also now voted for Crawford in this election.
Yes.
What motivated you for this vote?
Well, I just feel like she's the better person, and she's more consistent. I don't like that, there's going to be no abortions. That really troubles me, and I just feel like Susan Crawford is the person to be. And
there you go.
Need that.
I don't like that there are no abortions. Here we go again. And Democrats have shrewdly and carefully weaponized abortion. And we lose on that every time. You know that, right? That is politically a losing issue. And the irony of that is, morally, millions of lives are going to be, thousands, or if not millions of lives will be saved. Millions of babies will come into the world because the Supreme Court got Roe v. Wade right. But what Roe v. Wade does is allow states like Wisconsin and California and all the blue states to be an abortion haven. You want an abortion? Live in Wisconsin. Abortion was never banned. There was never going to be a federal ban on abortion. There should not be a federal ban on abortion because we'll never win another election. And we have to live with that. We got to accept that. So we got people like that lady, well, you know, I voted for Trump, but I don't want to lose my abortion rights, says the 73-year-old resident of Wisconsin. And I went through this. I remember it like it was yesterday. After Roe v. Wade was overturned, caller after caller were ladies like her calling the show, promising to never vote for another Republican because they couldn't believe that their right to an abortion was being challenged. And then we forget what abortion really is. We forget what's really on the line. So, look, I'm not in despair. You shouldn't be either. We'll live to fight another day. We got to shake this one off. And like Charlie Kirk put it, may Wisconsin be our wake-up call. 800-655-MIKE. Let's turn the show over to you like I love to do. We're in the Relief Factor studios for a Wednesday, April the 2nd, 2025. 800-655-MIKE, 800-655-6453. Big wins in Florida. Big win in Wisconsin for election integrity. Not a big win on the Supreme Court, and that might spell trouble for the country in the days ahead. Let me get your reaction to all of it. I want to put your voice front and center on the Mike Gallagher Show, 800-655-MIKE.
Breaking now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
I always want to remember perspective. So perspective. Quick note before we get to two breaking news stories. Remember, yesterday's scorecard, no matter how the media spins it, it was 3-1. 3 for Trump and the Republicans, and 1 for the Democrats. That was the score yesterday. 3 for Trump, 1 for the Dems. Keep it in perspective. Don't get swept away. But here's some breaking news. Couple of things. First of all, good news for New York City Mayor Eric Adams. The Justice Department, a federal judge in New York, Judge Dale Ho, dismissed the corruption charges against Mayor Eric Adams. Now, the Justice Department, interestingly, wanted the case to be dismissed so that Adams would work with the immigration agenda for the Trump administration, but the department, DOJ, wanted the case dismissed without prejudice, meaning it could be brought up again. Well, the federal judge dismissed with prejudice the charges against Eric Adams, so he's off the hook completely. So good news for Eric Adams. And Ontario Premier Doug Ford said in an interview moments ago that he thinks Canada would drop its tariffs if Trump would do the same. Ford made the comment in an interview with CNBC's Ross Sorkin. He said, we'd be willing to take those off tomorrow if he took all the tariffs off. So we'll see. This is Liberation Day. Let me get to Tom in San Jose. So, Tom, you've called before. You're a smart guy. You tell me how in the world Spartacus's speech yesterday for 25 hours changes the course of politics forever.
Hey, thank you for taking my call, Mike. I'm telling you, people, I've been saying it for decades. They don't. We all know they don't play fair. I'm still here in California, so you can't say I'm not a fighter. I'm still fighting out here.
Sure.
I've done law enforcement. I've done Hollywood. You guys, this is another stunt. I think you had mentioned that too, Mike. And they're getting this guy ready You all know what they're getting ready for.
Is that
He
what
has to be
is that why
their
Frank
golden goose.
is that why Frank Luntz is salivating because he wants Cory Booker to run for president? He thinks he'll make a good candidate for the Democrats?
They need somebody, dude, and this is the guy they're going to grasp onto. That's what I'm seeing at this moment, of course.
Yeah.
It could change, as politics can, but you're going to watch. They're all going to fall in line.
Well, maybe so. Maybe you're right. Maybe the whole reason. Honestly, I'd like for somebody to tell me substantively what did he accomplish? That he set the record? He broke Strom Thurmond's record for filibustering? It wasn't even a filibuster. It was just some 25-hour rant. And I don't even want to play clips. It'll give you a headache. Guys up there babbling about the evil Republicans. Okay, so what? What did you do? What was the point? Maybe Tom's right. It was just to tee him up to run for president in 2028. Very weird to me with all that's going on. 800-655-MIKE. We have an open line.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.